We're back on the Sports Zone. I am Mike Aglialoro. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please check out the second installment of Sports Zone's 2014 NFL Draft Preview. Jake Dixon takes a look at the defensive tackles, the top 5 prospects heading into the draft. And if you didn't check out the first part, he did the top 5 cornerbacks over the weekend. So make sure you take a look at that. And today, we're going to talk about the NFL spring meetings between the NFL owners and the NFL Players Association, which begin April 8th and they last until April 10th. So that's going to be happening this week. And one of the major topics it is reported that they will be considering will be whether or not to expand the playoffs from 12 to 14 teams. And I, for one, think this is a terrible idea and have thought this basically every time they try expanding either the regular season or the postseason. I just think it's a bad idea. The most recent one was during the NFL owners meetings on March 26th when Roger Goodell first basically came out and said that he thought it would be a good idea to expand the playoffs from 12 to 14 teams. Now, let's be honest. Roger Goodell is in this to make as much money as humanly possible for him and the owners. That's his job. The only thing he cares about is milking every last dollar he can out of the NFL. And let's be honest, he's done a good job at doing that. NFL is the most popular sport in the country. You got everybody wanting the NFL Sunday package, and those who don't get the NFL Red Zone like I do. You got the Thursday night games, even though, let's be honest, the fans barely want them, and the teams themselves don't even want them. And as a result of them possibly increasing the Thursday games, you're taking away from the Sunday package, which is what everyone wants to see in the first place. And now, you couldn't get the NFL Players Association to sign off on switching the season from 16 to 18 games. Now you want to expand the playoffs. This doesn't work for me twofold. Number one, it's completely hypocritical when you consider everything they're trying to do to enhance player safety. Whether it's, everything they've settled with the lawsuits in spite of the book coming out that said that they were basically trying to hide the long-term effects of concussions since the 80s. And, in spite of all that, they still were able to settle most things with the former players. And on top of that, you have all the penalties and the fines that come because the NFL wants to minimize the amount of violent contact that is happening. And you have all the kickoff returns that basically don't exist anymore. And every time there's a semi-violent hit, 2 days later, there's at least a $25,000 fine. And you have all these players who feel like they aren't allowed to really tackle the way they were brought up to do it. Every time there's something like that, the NFL always winds up saying, we are putting the best interest of our players forward. Well, guess what? By expanding the playoffs from 12 to 14 teams, you are directly contradicting that. And we know you're doing it because you're seeing the dollar signs in your eyes. But the fact is you have to think of the players here who just want to keep it what it is. And let's be honest, the NFL product is fine as is. You don't have to expand it from 12 to 14 teams in the playoffs. You don't have to expand the regular season from 16 to 18 games. If you want to eliminate 2 preseason games, just do it. Don't feel like you got to replace that anywhere because you're going to cause yourself a lot of undue problems. And another one you're going to cause yourself, if you expand from 12 to 14, let's be honest, that's an uneven number. As much as, you're still going to have the bye. At some point, you're going to want to go to 8. You're going to want to go to 8 teams for each conference. And the problem with doing that is you're completely watering down the postseason experience for the players and for the fans to watch. You get more of the upsets, but you know something? Just because a team qualifies and is able to pull it off on that day, that's the beauty of football. It's one day. It's not like the NBA where, you have the 82-game season, and because you have a marathon postseason, the really good teams basically don't play their players over the last 2 weeks. Look at the San Antonio Spurs. But in football, it's one day. One game, that's everything. And you saw it with the Seahawks a few years ago over the Saints, where a 7-9 team made the playoffs as the NFC West division winner and beat a team that won over 10 games that season. You can say what you want, but I don't really believe that 7-9 teams should make the playoffs. And if you expand the field, sooner or later you're going to have that. Yeah, it's a freak thing when you have a team like the Arizona Cardinals finish with double-digit wins and miss the playoffs because of all the other teams that were ahead of them in their division. That's the NFL, though. You try to get better, and you see what happens next season. You don't expand the field. You don't water down the experience for everyone just to please a couple of freak things. Because let's be honest, it's a rare thing that a team that wins 10 or 11 games misses the playoffs. Better luck next year. Don't ruin the whole thing because of that. And don't let what Mark Cuban said become reality. Because in the end, the NFL's worst enemy here is the NFL. It's Roger Goodell and the owners trying to get as much money out of it as possible. They are completely saturating the market. We, the fans, love it as it is. But if anyone's going to kill the popularity of the sport, it's going to be the NFL. Trying to expand more Thursday night games and wanting to put Saturday games on. Yeah, you do that every now and then towards the end of the season. You don't do that for the whole season because you're watering down your main product. And if you expand the playoffs from 12 to 14 and maybe even 16 teams at some point, you're watering down the experience for everyone. So in 10 years, if the NFL really does lose popularity, it's the NFL's fault. That's going to do it for us tonight. Like I said earlier, check out the 2014 This Is SportsZone Draft Preview. We've started with the top 5 cornerbacks and the top 5 defensive tackles. Jake Dixon's going to have more for us on that later in the week. And we're also going to have articles from Dave Tice, Jay Rovsky, Tom Lembo, George Murphy, and the whole Sports Zone crew. Like us on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter at We Are Sports Zone. Check us out on vicehood.com and Tumblr and my YouTube page, Mike Ags 121. Send us your questions or comments, anything you may have. Thanks again for watching, folks. For This Is SportsZone, I'm Mike Aglialoro. We'll see you next time, folks.